Hello, this is Philip Nichols, and in today's video, we are going to be looking at evolution versus creation dating methods. And no, I'm not talking about the dating methods like I love you dating methods. I'm talking about, of course, the dating methods that show the age of the Earth and the age of the fossils. I would also like to mention, first of all, that I am not going to be talking about the nooks and crannies of each method and how it's done. Those deserve videos of their own. I'm going to list off some evolution dating methods first. Those are the ones that support millions and billions of years, and they are radiometric dating, radiocarbon dating, potassium-argon dating, and uranium-lead dating. Now I'm going to list off some creation dating methods, and these are less known because they aren't taught in public schools, but there are actually surprisingly even more creation dating methods than evolution ones. I'm just going to list off a few. These are the ones that do not support millions and billions of years. Magnetic field decline, Earth slowing down, helium dating, carbon-14 dating, the moon moving away at a certain rate, the sun shrinking, some dinosaur bones are still not fossilized, and the mutation rate, which, I don't know, I gotta explain this for a second because I made that name up. It's like the rate of mutations that we are seeing, more are negative than positive. So at this rate, if millions of billions of years existed, we wouldn't be walking and talking to each other right now because we are seeing so many negative mutations all the time, but have still yet to find one positive one. Well, even if we found 10, that still wouldn't be enough to combat the negative mutation. Okay, so now that I listed off some of these dating methods that scientists like to use, I'm going to talk about what they have in common. And the first one is pretty obvious. They are not observable science. So observable science is like we can see it in front of our face, we can test it, we can prove it, we can disprove it, things along those lines. And this would fall into the historical science category, where these spans of times are not visible, so we cannot disprove or prove it. Every dating method that I've ever seen works the same. I will give an example. I made it up myself. So you see a guy with an empty plate that used to have cheeseburgers on it, and you want to know how long ago he received that plate of cheeseburgers. Well, first of all, you would have to know how many cheeseburgers or how much mass of cheeseburger was on the plate to start with. Next, you would need to know the rate at which he was eating them. So, for example, maybe he took a bite every 10 seconds. And then you would need to know at what time the plate was finished. So basically, a dating method is you need to know those three things. And if you do, you could have a concrete time of when he was given the cheeseburgers. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but I am including it in my Proof God Exists series. I'm a creationist. Surprise, surprise, surprise to no one. And you might be thinking, why would you do that? All the dating methods, including creationist ones, are non-observable science. Non-provable and non-disprovable. Well, I have 3 reasons why this can be proof that God exists. Number 1, time is probably the most important part of evolution because, of course, things that are crazy like non-life turning into life or life coming from non-life or a whale turning into a bear or a bear turning into a whale is something crazy. So they take these unseen things and they put time on it and teach the time as fact. These things become more reasonable in their eyes. So if we look at what their evidence for time is, that is so important. They don't have any observable evidence. But you can say the same for creationists. We all look at dating methods the same way because all the ones I'm aware of work that same way that I explained earlier. So I'm not going to say that ours are somehow provable because nobody was there for 6,000 years timing it with a stopwatch, or for atheists, nobody was there for millions of years with a stopwatch. So these rates, we don't know if they were changed, and we don't know if these rates stayed exactly the same, and we don't know if they were contaminated at all during history or extraction or during the dating method. The evidence for this time becomes very weak. Evidence number 2, creation methods oftentimes don't allow there to be a longer time available. Let me explain. Like the sun shrinking, for example, or the magnetic field declining, or the moon moving away from the earth. They just don't allow for it, because once we have these rates, then given billions of years, those rates add up to where life would be impossible on earth if the sun was this size, if the magnetic field wasn't strong enough or was too strong, or the earth was spinning too fast, or the moon was too close to the earth, causing chaos. A lot of times we can't allow for a billion years. It wouldn't make sense. I'm going to point out that earlier I did admit that creationist methods are not observable, which is true. What if these rates actually were way slower? What if these methods were actually going on way slower than they are going on today? It's possible. It's really possible. It's just way less likely. But it kind of leads me into the third point that I wanted to make as evidence, which is that we can observe all these things happening about the earth is slowing down and the magnetic field is declining and the mutation rate is very negative, and for some reason we're seeing stars exploding in the universe, but we never see any made. Why would that be? Well, it all points one direction, and that direction is a declining universe and a cursed universe, which is completely predicted. That to me is a great evidence for being a creationist. To summarize, just because one piece of evidence goes against your ideology, don't just say, hey, that's false. You're going to end up looking not very skeptical when you look at creationist rates and just be like, hey, those are false. The creationist rates suck because the evolutionist rates rock. Hey, just remember, none of them are observable. So that's pretty weak evidence, and it's going to look kind of hypocritical. Also like to point out at the very end of this video, I believe the greatest method for dating the earth is through the genealogy that is provided by us by the Word of God. And we can't get a completely accurate number, I'm sure, but it gets us pretty close. Probably do a video on that someday, maybe, possibly. But hopefully this video gets the wheels turning, and hopefully I stepped on some atheist toes. And until my next video, I will see you guys.